बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। खरसस टीवी की नई वीडियो में आपको खुशामदीद।
I want to thank you. I know I'm running a small college, and I know how busy that is, and you're running a very large country with many challenges. So I really appreciate the time that you're affording us. For me, it's quite extraordinary. The times that I've interacted with you and the few times that I've met you, you seem to be a very down-to-earth person. And that's a very interesting phrase that we use, down-to-earth, because in Arabic, the term for what the Prophet ﷺ asked us to do is tawada, which means to stay close to the earth. And so looking at that, I'm just curious how you've dealt with all these remarkable achievements.
Sheikh Hamza, well, let me say one thing. And I have had a very varied life. Someone who finished his education, got a degree, but at the same time played international cricket. So normally when you play international sport, you have to be very focused. And to excel, to become the best in your country, you really have to have that tunnel vision. And normally it's very difficult to study. You can't do two. Most international sportsmen actually do not finish their studies. So because I did the two, I had a bigger perspective of life. So if you all you do is play sport all the time, and you have no other perspective in life, so everything becomes that sport. And so when you excel in it, you think you've conquered the world, and there's always a chance that you will have arrogance in you because you're so much better than the other players. So it's a very natural thing when you excel as a sportsman and you reach the top. So others are not as good as you, and because that's your world, you have this a chance of, in my opinion, what is the worst quality in a human being? Arrogance. You can get arrogant. On the other hand, I played almost 2 decades of international sport. So in that period, you have lots of ups and downs. That also tells you a lot. When you fall, it leads to a lot of soul searching. So when you go into the cycle of up and down, when you reach the top and then you have setbacks, and over 20 years I had lots of setbacks. I had a lot of successes, but a lot of setbacks. So during the low period in your life, it teaches you a lot. So you do not eventually lose when you go up, your feet stay on the ground, because you know that, you're not always going to stay up there. So that's one. But really it is, later in my life, just at the end of my sporting career, when I was blessed with Almighty's greatest gift, and that's faith. I never understand this concept of people forcing someone into your religion or faith, because for me faith is a gift of God. Not everyone has this iman or faith. So once you have that, then you have a completely different perspective on life, because you believe that success, respect are in the hands of God. This is clearly stated in the Quran. So once you know that, when you have successes, you then attribute it to God. And you know that it's because of His will that you have succeeded. So arrogance disappears from your life. And then the most important thing, that you control what is the most destructive thing in a human being, is the human ego. If you do not control the ego, it is very destructive, and I've seen it destroy human beings. So faith, actually, true faith, iman, firmly makes you control your ego.
And there's a tradition in American baseball that when they see a pitcher pitching a perfect game, all the other players leave him alone because they know he's gone into a kind of zone, and they don't want to disrupt that. But what they do at the end of the game is they push a cream pie in his face as he comes off the mound. And it's a way of reminding him, you had a perfect game today, but tomorrow you might lose. So there is an awareness, I think, in people of that up and down.
We read in the history books that when a Roman general used to come back victorious, there would be a man standing behind him when he would be taking all the applause from the crowd. He would be telling him that, remember, you're human.
Exactly. And I think this is something that a lot of people in positions, when they get into positions that you've gotten into, they very often shut that aspect out and surround themselves. I mean, this is one of the things that Aristotle says is that tyrants surround themselves with yes men, that they don't want to be reminded of those things. And Pharaoh is a good example of that. And it's very interesting that in the Quranic narrative, the most repeated story is one of immense arrogance, which is Pharaoh, and then the humble servant of God, which is Moses, and then this idea that in the end it's humility that God gives victory to. One of the things about pride that really interests me is I know in Urdu they say ghurur, which is very interesting because it's taken from the Arabic, which is a kind of self-delusion, that you enter into a delusional state from Arabic. Gharur is one of the names of the devil. And then there's this idea of izzat, which in Arabic is actually a positive thing. The Quran describes the believers as having a kind of dignity and a sense of self-worth. And I think what it seems to me is that in many parts of the Muslim world, a lot of Muslims have lost that sense of civilizational pride. And I think it seems to me that what you're really trying to do in an extraordinary country with an extraordinary people is restore that pride and sense of who we are as a people.
The Quran liberates a human being when God says that there are three things that are in His hands. Number one is respect and humiliation. So you cannot be humiliated and you cannot respect unless God wills it. Number two is how much risk, in other words, how much you will, the sort of money you will have in life, how much you will make in life, that is also in God's hand. You can only strive, but He is the one who will determine how wealthy you will become. And third is life and death. That's in God's hands. So in my opinion, these three areas are which give us the greatest concern. We are scared of dying, we are scared of being humiliated or being deprived of a livelihood. So in my opinion, when you have faith, you have complete belief that the things that cause you the greatest fear are in God's hands. And therefore, you realize that the only thing you have got in your hands is to struggle. Success lies in His hands, and which I've always tried to tell my political party. I've always tried to make them understand this. Because, when I came into politics,